Hey guys, it's Andy, and welcome back to Rust Wars. In today's episode, I'm welding a structural frame rail patch into my Volvo 1800ES. We're going from a complete rotted out mess to metal finish shiny smooth swankiness. Originally, the frame rail started out as this rotted out mess. It was literally falling off the car. What happened was that because of a bad design, it trapped dirt and mud inside and created a giant pocket for that moisture to rot out both the frame rail and the crossmember from the insides. I've already shown the cutting out and removal of the rot in a previous video that nobody watched here somewhere. But today, we're starting from a big gaping ugly hole in the frame rail, and the goal is to put structural strength back into the frame rail without distorting it. I'm not a professional welder, but I am a scientist, so I spent a lot of time dialing in the weld technique and settings to develop a sequence that produces a really solid weld with solid penetration and minimal shrinkage. The strategy that I ended up using was welding in a backing plate on top of the frame rail. This locks the frame rail opening together and prevents shrinkage or distortion whilst I weld the frame rail patch on the outside. The patch itself and the backing plate are 16-gauge steel. I first rough cut them on the bandsaw, then finished them perfectly to size on the belt grinder to get the exact right gap. If the gap is too small, you don't get penetration. If the gap is too big, you put in too much weld, which causes excess shrinkage. Let's get to it. So first off, here are some of the samples that I welded. These are 16-gauge sheet, just like on the car, and I spent quite a bit of time dialing in the exact settings needed for a good proper spot and a good proper stitch. So one experiment that I tried was doing a continuous weld with a wide gap with a backer. The problem is this wide gap puts down a lot of weld, a lot of heat, and produces quite a bit of shrinkage. So the best technique that I've come across was this modified stitch welding technique, where I go through a series of half-inch stitches and basically doing a backstep approach where I weld back, and then you skip around. And it's really important to skip around so that the series of tacks all around lock the panel in place to prevent warpage. And then you can go in and do the half-inch series of stitches that give you really, really solid full penetration. It's actually better than the stacking tacks approach like this. So, if you guys want to see a follow-up video where I explore different welding techniques, let me know. But for now, let's get to car welding. Here's what the frame rail looks like currently, and we can take a look at this past video here somewhere about where I actually cut this out. As you can see, there's this big, huge opening here because this entire area was completely rotted out, and this is how far I had to cut before I got to good steel. And this is the patch panel I made, and we can just take a quick look at me trimming it right now. If you're not interested in me trimming it, just skip ahead to the next section. I'll make the patch out of this piece of 16 gauge, which was a filing cabinet of all things, but hey, it's really good solid 16 gauge steel, same stuff that's on there. This has this corner, and I will go ahead and I'll use this corner for the top. It's already bent. So we will just stick this thingy here, and let me get a magnet. All right, so I'm lining up that corner with where I marked it with the corner on the steel, and making sure to leave plenty of room because it's really easy to chop that too short. Okay. And let's see, now, this is gonna be slightly tricky cutting this on the saw, so yeah, I'll go ahead, I will rough cut this on the bandsaw, and then we'll trim it on the sander. Here's the patch panel, rough sawn on the saw, and I've already done some initial fine trimming, but basically I've already fitted this up into the car like so, and then went ahead, went ahead and marked the outline, and that's where I'm doing the fine trimming to. Now, I am using this little grinder to do my fine trimming. I really prefer this 1x30 to basically anything else, just because it gives you so much more control, and it's so totally adjustable for all sorts of neat stuff. Anyway, I'll set the camera on this and then I'll do some trimming with this. Okay, so let's take a look. Okay, there we have a nice, super uniform, about a 1mm gap all the way around. Okay, so patch panel. This is how it goes in here, and it fits pretty well. But the problem is if I went to do the normal butt welding, there will be a lot of weld distortion, and this frame rail would just simply pull in here because there's no support. So the approach I'm going to go with is a much smaller backer. So we'll take this piece of 16 gauge, and then I will spot weld this first up here. The idea here is there will be a series of spots there and spots there, and then this backer will lock that to that, and then that will prevent the frame rail from pulling in with So here's the patch panel all fitted in here. I have a weld-through primer on the back side, and I'm just going to give this a cleaning here so it welds. And let's go ahead and give this a quick touch up with the DA just to make it look nice. All right, well, this is done. Okay, well, this looks pretty good in my opinion. Let's take a couple looks, see here. So there's with the light on it. And yeah, I think that looks totally okay. Yeah, this is, it's not, it has this weird bend in there, but that is actually the factory shape. I did not touch that at all. It's the same on the other side, so. All right, and this is from the top. So there's that panel, and see, is welded in. And let's take a look down in there. So yeah, that's okay. So that is, yeah, got good solid penetration, especially at the bottom. Those are those. There was a couple spot welds from the bottom that I drilled through that I just filled up with a weld. So, and then there is that backer plate, and welded there and there, and okay, and based on the penetration all the way around, I think this is a very solid structural repair, and we're now ready to move on to the next part. And next time we're going to be dealing with this. This will be a little bit of a challenge. I got this Crossmember from VP Auto. Actually, I got a pair for both sides. Let me show you what is wrong with it. Yeah, it is right about 4 or 5 millimeters too short. It's too short, the exact same distance on both sides. So this will unfortunately require some modification. So that's it for this episode. The big takeaway here is spending a lot of time developing your welding technique and developing your strategy results in a solid repair. Because if you mess this up, if you warp a frame rail, there's no easy way of undoing it. In the next episode, we're going to tackle welding in this badly fitting replacement crossmember piece. We're going to have to think about a smart way of modifying this piece so that it fits the car right. If you found any of this content useful, or if you have any questions about the process, please leave me a comment. I read and answer them all. If you want to follow along on my Volvo 1800ES project, please consider subscribing, and see you next time on Rust Wars.